This is the RPG Pundit, final boss of Internet Shitlords. I'm here today to give a brief response. And when I say brief, I mean I have no idea how long it'll be, because every time in the past that I've said this is going to be a brief video, it turns out to be 20 goddamn minutes. But I'm going to give a response to Venger Satanis. See, a couple of days ago, I reviewed this book, Player's Handbook, Like a Fucking Boss, by good old Venger there. And he ended up posting a video response where there was something he was a little bit upset about, which was basically that I accused him of not really understanding the OSR. And I'm going to start by saying something nice about Venger. Which is that he's made here, if I can lift my cat's tail for a second, the Island of Purple Haunted Putrescence, which is one of the best Gonzo OSR settings in the world. It's really good. And I would strongly recommend you to get it if you like Gonzo old school fantasy. It's got a touch of titillation. Yeah, there's a bum on the cover, right? But the actual interior is not, it doesn't reach alpha blue levels of kind of smuttiness. And that means, I mean, the setting itself that he created there, it's a hex crawl, and it does such a great job of presenting an OSR setting. There's a couple of little, stumbles, but for the most part, it's a great OSR setting. And again, strongly recommended. Now this tells me that Venger is able to make great OSR settings. It's still, I still think there's some things he doesn't understand about the OSR, which I'm going to get to in a moment. But before that, I want to say that when I criticize Venger, when I criticize his later games, where instead of working within the kind of rigorous structure of old school D&D, which, let's face it, is not that rigorous. You just have to understand the basics of it, and then you can play around with it a great deal without, turning it around completely. But he shortcuts that by playing these other games, making these other games that are basically these dice pools and these very disconnected. I mean, there's most of his games, Alpha Blue, for example, is not really a tight system. It's a very loose system. He did Blood Dark Thirst, which uses the same kind of concept but has a much tighter system. But in any case, he chooses to do a bunch of dice pool games, but still wants to call it OSR for marketing purposes, and that's what it is. I'm going to link to the video where he responds to my review here, and I'm not going to have any problem finding it because, he's as shameless a self-promoter as I am. The only difference is I don't say that I've got that my OSR products are all actually OSR. Lion and Dragon is an actual OSR product. So he can make great games. And what I'm saying is not, he's my co-host on Inappropriate Characters. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not saying he's a bad designer. On the contrary, I'm saying he's a really good designer that has occasionally risen to great heights. And then a lot of times he just kind of chooses to slack off and not rise to those heights when I think he could have. So this is all about trying to encourage him to be better, and to be better by being able to make something really spectacular within the framework of the OSR. That's what the OSR does. It's a framework of design that forces you, by forcing you to draw within those lines, it forces you to be creative in a different way than if you're just told you can do whatever you like, be creative, right? Those are the two different kinds of creativity. One is the creativity that happens with a totally unstructured environment, which is usually pretentious dickery, let's face it, right? Once in a while there is some real genius that within a totally unstructured environment will make something that's truly great. But for the most part, people who want unstructured environments want it because they don't really have the talent for handling structured environments, or the skills or the discipline or whatever. The greatness that happens in a structured environment is this other kind of greatness. It's where you're told, here are the rules. Now figure out how to play with this in such a way that you make something that nobody else has made with these rules. And that's what the OSR is all about. That's why the OSR has been much more successful as a design movement than the Forge and story games ever were, where they had none of that structure. This is the stuff. But anyways, to get to my main point, I've just spoken 5 minutes without getting to the start of what I wanted to say. This is why all my videos are long. So, I reviewed Player's Handbook Like a Fucking Boss, and I point out, you can watch that review. It's in, you'll see it in the channel. Check out all of the videos on my channel, but that one is going to be one of them, and you'll be able to tell which one it is. So just in brief, I say there that there are some things he doesn't seem to get about the OSR, because he's got some crazy random tables, which are great. That's OSR. But then he has a bunch of tables where, not just in this book, but in a lot of his games, where you have things where stuff just happens, right? Like in this one, there's a kind of a set of rules for a battle that you could have when you're running out of time to finish playing. So you've got, you got to do a battle that would take an hour and a half, but you've only got 40 minutes left, so you might as well just roll some dice and see what happened to everybody, right? And that's totally antithetical to what the OSR is about. He responded in his video, which I will link, that it's not, that in the OSR there's been a long tradition of stuff that was about, luck, and you were sometimes had good luck and sometimes had bad luck and sometimes could die and whatever, and that there's even a thing called save versus death. To which I reply, to paraphrase the great Dan Aykroyd, "Venger, you ignorant slut. The whole point about save or death is that you are doing a saving throw. A saving throw is a mechanical thing that you have. The problem with this set of random dice rolls that you had, and it's not just in that one table, because if it was just that, it's just a throwaway thing, but I've seen it in lots of the tables of Alpha Blue, or the source books for Alpha Blue, and there's even a touch of it in the Island of Purple Haunted Putrescence, where what really happens is that you have a random table where you just roll some dice, and that's what happens to the player characters, and there's nothing the player characters can do to in any way mitigate that. There's nothing about them that mitigates or modifies it in any way. One example of this is your Death Race 3000 adventure that was in one of your products, one of your Alpha Blue source books. And it's a brilliant idea. I mean, it's a parody on the old, wacky races, sort of sci-fi races and all that sort of stuff, But the mechanics that you had for it made it completely random. Who wins, who loses, who lives, who dies. The characters themselves had almost no agency at all. And that is the least OSR thing on Earth. Because one of the central precepts of the OSR is that you control your character. The DM controls the world. So the DM makes the world, it has the world doing things, but you, in the end, control what your character is and what he does and how he gets to do things. So, with this save or die, that's a perfect example of how the OSR makes randomness work. There are moments where there are truly random events, right? Like if you walk through some weird portal with random magical effects, well then there you go. But you walked through that portal. That was your choice. If you stick your head into a sphere of annihilation, you're just dead. That's it. There's nothing to save you. There's no saving throw involved. But again, that was your decision. And there is certainly some of that. Like if you now go, Venger, and look through a bunch of modules and try to find little examples where there's stuff that doesn't have save or die, and it's just, there's a chance your character just, his head blows up for no good reason, I'm sure you'll find a little bit of that. But those things were never universally accepted. They were never in the absolute mainstream. A lot of the times, those things were criticized. Even the Tomb of the Tomb of Horrors, which was the best example maybe of this kind of haha, you rolled the wrong die so you're dead scenario, is not universally liked. On the contrary, it's an extremely controversial module. There are some people that love it and some people that hate it. But most of the stuff in Tomb of Horrors, if you look through it, there's still a matter of the PC's choices that they can make. If they are super duper cautious, then they're not going to get into the situations of that sort of thing. And yet there are items, if you get a deck of many things, there could be a card there where, okay, your soul is just ripped out of your body and you're gone, right? But again, your character is the one choosing to do this. Whereas if you say, okay, the fighting would take too long, so just roll a die, and if you get a 1, your character's just dead. And it doesn't matter if you're level 1 or level 20. It doesn't matter how good your attack bonus is. It doesn't matter if you're a fighter or you're a wizard. None of that matters. It's just completely random who survives this massive battle. That is the antithesis of Save or Die. In Save or Die, the guy who's a high-level character with a good saving throw bonus is going to have a much better chance to not die than the newbie or the guy who's got a really crappy saving throw bonus. So by using Save or Die as your example, you've demonstrated exactly what I'm talking about. The part of the OSR you don't get. The importance of integrating player authority and player agency over their character and how their character interacts with the world into the system and how the system works. So that's it. We'll see if Venger concedes my point, or if he starts a magical feud with me, or what he does. You never know. So maybe we'll end up hashing this out in the upcoming episode of Inappropriate Characters, which is probably going to be happening this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. And it'll probably be posted sometime very early next week. So keep your eyes out for that. Subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to Inappropriate Characters. And you know what? Subscribe to Venger's channel. He needs the views. It's videos of him talking in his car, which is not nearly as exciting as videos of me talking from behind this screen while I make iced coffee. But give it a shot anyways. It'll be good for his morale. And please support us by giving us some Patreon dollars for Inappropriate Characters, or if you're mad at Venger and Jim and just want to support me, go to my blog. On my blog there's a PayPal button. Either way is fine by me. And most of all, share this video. Share the debate. Share my channel so that people will find out about it. That's one of the best ways you can help us out right now, is by sharing the videos and letting people know about my YouTube channel, so that we get more people checking it out, and more people commenting, and more people getting on board with D&D Gate and the OSR and everything else that we're trying to push. And remember one thing, whatever you might think of me or Venger, our products are products made by people who don't despise you. Don't be stupid and buy RPG products made by people who despise you. Find good games that you're going to like, made by people who believe that all that matters is whether you're a gamer or not. It's nothing else, right? I don't care about the color of any player's skin, only the content of their character sheet. That's it. So, see you next time. Currently smoking Lorenzetti Volcano with Morning Drive.